and met Kush, and he said, okay, let's look at Latin America. And at the time, I'm like, hell yeah, this is exactly what I always wanted to do. It just gave me more reasons to live and more reasons to push Mantle. People don't really know, but there are a lot of great LATAM founders. They might be low-key. Maybe the world doesn't talk about it enough, but there are some really, really good Latino founders here in the region. That is why people would be like, oh, you're going to go to Mexico? Are you crazy? Are you going to die? I went to my own embassy last month for dinner. We sat down, there was about 25 of us having a chat, and they're like, man, nobody knows what's going on here. I'm like, yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful city, a beautiful country. And not just Mexico City, we talk about every other country in the region.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Frontera, the podcast where we analyze what's really happening in Latin America. I'm Av, co-founder and CEO of Bando and Espacio Crypto. I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Kush. He's the founder of Odisea Labs. And Ben. We invited Ben because we think that he's the most bullish person in LATAM that we know. Ben works at Mantle. Ben, welcome to Frontera.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, I would consider myself one of the biggest LATAM bulls. I think there's a lot of them here. I mean, I'm speaking to the two of them on this podcast. But yeah, very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Ben, you're a local legend, man. Now in the LATAM scene, everyone I come across now is like, Ben from Mantle. That guy's awesome, right? And like, doesn't matter if I'm in Buenos Aires or Mexico City. Like, everyone's known you, man. Like, how, tell us more about, like, why don't we start off with a little bit of like Ben lore, right? Like, who are you? What are you doing? Like, who is Ben? Because I think that's like important for people to get to know you.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, so I'm Ben, I'm part of the Mantle team. What is my lore? I came from a TradFi background, and my first Web3 job is in a company called Nansen. So it's an analytics platform that came out in the previous so-called bull cycle. They're very big in the NFT scene. They're still alive and still doing very well when it comes to looking at addresses and looking for labels and trying to draw maps and seeing who you want to dox or liquidity pools or hacks and stuff like that. There's the research. And then after that, I took a break for about 6 months between jobs. And I was wondering, where do I go? What do I do? What's in the next step? And it was contemplating between projects and also between joining an infra. And that's where I spoke to a friend, a very good friend. His name is Gabe. He's part of the Mantle team. I used to not really like Mantle, to be honest. I was like, it looks like a boring chain. There isn't much to do. I'm an adult farmer. I do farming. Very DeFi native. I've been DeFi for a bit. Just came in after DeFi summer. So I missed the whole thing. That's why I'm not retired and still wage cucking right here and joining Mantle. But regardless, after that, I sat down with him, had a few coffees with him and talked to him about Mantle and, potentially what's so cool about Mantle compared to every other L2. And at the time, there wasn't many L2s when Mantle came out or when Mantle was in the plan of coming out. And in the end, yeah. So here I am, part of the Mantle team, almost 1.5 years. It's really, really liking my time here. I got red pilled into it and got a really good team. And why am I a LATAM bull? I am a LATAM bull because I first came to Latin America in 2023. I went to Argentina for a wedding, and I saw the issue of the whole hyperinflation. Back then the blue dollar rate was $1 for 295 pesos, and the official was $1 for 150 pesos. So with $8, $7, it took us so far. It took me like to a really nice restaurant with really good meat, medium rare, and some wine. And I was just like, whoa, that is crazy. And then I had some friends from Argentina who were telling me, yeah, we use Binance. My grandmother and grandfather use Binance. We have stable coins on Binance. We hold USDT on Binance. And I was like, wow, that is real world adoption. So I posted a tweet about it in 2023, a long time ago, with a link of some website sharing statistics. And I said, this is real world crypto adoption. It's been adopted since 2017 and people don't really know about it. So I've been a big LATAM bull since then. I spent about 6 months in Latin America in 2023, came back in October, decided to pack my bags and move to Mexico City, or Mexico in general, but now I moved fully to Mexico City. And the whole idea was, we actually met Kush sometime in August last year, Veer, our BD lead. At the time, he met Kush with Sozu House. So Kush was a Sozu House cohort member. and Veer went there for the hacker house and met Kush, and he said, okay, let's look at Latin America. And at the time, like, hell yeah, this is exactly what I always wanted to do. And it just gave me more reasons to live and more reasons to push Mantle. Always, my whole life was, the whole idea was to eventually to go somewhere that I really like and start the brand I'm working for, to really push into that region. And it's a win-win situation at that time. I decided to move here on my own accord. None of my team members said, "But you gotta go there." I'm like, no, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna get boots on the ground. It's more personal. I have some Latino friends already at that time, and I know they're very personal people, so it makes more sense to be there. And yeah, I've always been a huge LATAM bull. I mean, people don't really know, but there are a lot of great LATAM founders. They might be low key. Maybe the world doesn't talk about it enough, but there's some really, really good Latino founders here in the region, and not just living here. Some people even live in other parts of the world, but they are Latinos.
Well, man, I think that your story is really cool. And as Kush said at the beginning, a lot of people know you in the region. And I think that you are as bullish in Latam as Latam is bullish in Ben. So this is a good trade-off. And also, I'd love to hear more about what do you do at Mantle, because you and the Bando team, we've been speaking a lot, and also with Espacio Crypto. And basically, the way that I see it is you are one of the people in the L2 ecosystem that are pushing the hardest to help builders and to help adoption in Latin America. So first, before deep diving on those specific things that you're doing, uh, what do you do at Mantle?
Yeah, I do a bunch of few things. So I first came in what we call upper funnel. So I came in as a BD. They expanded the BD team. They were looking for somebody, and I came in to focus on upper funnel because we had a lot of inbound leads. We also had a lot of outbound leads that we were looking at. So I wanted to reach out to as many people as we can to see, what they're building. How do we try to get them to build a Mantle? What kind of support they need? It could be teams that are big. Could be teams of, let's say, that's been around for 3 to 4 years with 100 million, 200 million, a billion TVL kind of teams, or it could be very early stage founders who we find the diamond in the rough and really just sit down with them and say, okay, how do we get you to build a Mantle? We love the way you built before. We want you to build a new project, or we know that you're building something. How do we get you to build a Mantle? So a lot of calls. My main role, actually, Veer at that time challenged me and said, Ben, I want you to help on like 10 to 15 calls a day if you can. And every call is about 15 to 20 minutes. So it's quick, fast, just get in touch, have early conversations, and see how we can move forward. So we funnel it even lower, and then I pass it over to our leads in each vertical. Each vertical is a lead: DeFi, gaming, infra, social, NFT, you name it. Each vertical in this industry has a lead. And then I also started doing some stuff on grants. So I do some grant stuff as well. We have this program called the Scouts Grant, which Kush is part of. So scouts are essentially thought leaders in the industry, or people who are very well connected to the builders, and they would recommend to us to give a grant to a team. And so far, I think we've given about 7 or 8 scouts grant to Latin American teams, and also via our accelerators. So I also focus on accelerators, builder programs, and yeah, I just do a bunch of things. So I guess overall, I'm part of growth in Mantle. So that's the main thing that I do. And I always say I'm Veer's intern. Whatever Veer asks me to do, I'll do it. He asked me to clean the CRM, I'll do it. He asked me to travel, I'll do it. He asked me to buy coffee for Kush, I'll do it. Whatever Veer needs me to do, I'll do it.
Ben, it seems like you don't do enough, man. I mean, no,
Yeah, what the hell, man?
Yeah, no. Yeah, no.
Ben, one thing I was
It's,
really curious to
yeah.
understand, like, because so you said it even initially, you're like, oh, what's Mantle, right? You had sort of no idea behind like what Mantle was, and so that clearly that has changed. And so tell us more about like that transformation from your first sort of engagement with Mantle. You then joined the team. You end up being like the sort of main advocate for the chain, right? Veer, as you mentioned, is also just like super well known in the ecosystem. Like, tell us more about what that relationship with Mantle sort of externally, and then you join the team, and what does that look like, and how does that also relate to the way you think other people relate to Mantle too?
Yeah. So for me, how I related to Mantle, I guess it was a very different way of coming for Mantle's growth per se, and even for myself to believe in what Mantle was doing. When a new chain comes out, majority of it is always potentially you're gonna get an airdrop. So you're gonna think about going onto the chain, going to do the test net. Even I still do it when there are new chains coming out. I just want to test it and then potentially get an incentive. But Mantle came out of another project called BitDAO. So it's a DAO. Mantle is still a DAO, but BitDAO was around, and they decided to convert everything that they had 1-to-1. So BitDAO tokens converted 1-to-1 to Mantle tokens. So there isn't that speculation of an airdrop, or come in and put in as much money and potentially you get incentive. But it was a 1-to-1 convert. So it's a very slow and steady up grind. From BitDAO, you decided to build an L2, convert everything, all your BitDAO tokens into Mantle, and then from there you got to slowly start doing your BD work to try and draw as many projects, to try and draw as many users onto the chain. And it's like a slow up grind. We've had our times where we were really high in PVL, and then now we're like, I think 1.2 billion, with market being a little shit right now. But if not, yeah, it's a bit of slow up grind. And I got peeled into it because of potential yield, safe, sustainable yield of not 100 to 100%. Been part of the whole time of it back then with Om, right? Om, you had crazy kind of yield, but we're always thinking about, okay, potential yield. What kind of yield are we gonna have? Where's the yield gonna come from? Slow and steady amount of money, percentage of 5%, 12%, 20%. That is, of course it fluctuates, but it is very sustainable. With our treasury, we have a very good treasury that helps us put into the yield as well. So we give back a lot of yield to the users, and after we go and earn some stuff from different projects where we put our own money there to earn yield, we give it back to the users also. So that changed my mind, and after internally finding out who was part of the team, I was a fan of DeFi Maestro. I know DeFi Maestro, and he's around for a bit already since the previous cycle. So being able to join a team with such strong leaders in the industry, so like DeFi Maestro, we've got Jordi, who's part of the advisory, we've got Gabe, who's my friend, Veer. So these are people who've been in the industry for a bit, and deciding to join the team was not very difficult after finding out who was inside, because then there's a lot of learning and a lot of opportunity of growth as well.
Ben, I'd like to go through why are you so bullish on Latin America? And I love that this is the topic of this podcast, because I think that you have two really interesting approaches. One is clearly emotional, and you can really share that emotion and that feeling of bullishness on this region. And I mean, Kush and we were born and raised in Latin America. We feel the pain, we can see the problems, and we speak so often on how hard it is for people around the world to understand why is this region so important, and it has such big opportunities for everyone in crypto, in deep tech, in a lot of industries. So the thing that I like about this is that I think that you have a clearly an emotional attachment, but you're also a business person. So you can have great emotions, but if it doesn't make a lot of business sense, basically we shouldn't do anything, because at the end we're here to have an impact, right? So I'd love to hear on those two dimensions, on your emotional attachment and the business sense. Why does it make sense? Why do you think it's such a no-brainer to build for Latin America, specifically for a project of the size of Mantle, one of the most important L2s out there?
There's a bunch of reasons. I think, first of all, I come from a third world country myself, and we don't interact as much with, so for context, I come from Malaysia, to those listening, but we don't interact as much with, let's say, Malaysia with Thailand, Malaysia with Korea, Malaysia with Indonesia, on a personal level, let's say me and my friends. But business to business, of course, there could be some interaction. Southeast Asia interacts with each other when it comes to business, but it's always in English. What really blew my mind is there's 33 countries in this region alone speaking in Spanish, and money flows in and out on a day-to-day basis with remittance. I have friends who send money from Mexico to Argentina, two literal ends of the world. It's 9 hours flight apart. I will not send money to Korea. Like, I don't have friends there. My friends will not all my friends will go to Korea for work. But you of course, issues of like Argentina, people fly to Mexico, they fly to Costa Rica, they fly to countries with better currency at that time, even though Argentina's kind of figuring it out right now. But I think overall it's more of, there's so much interaction between people, and also you are, like, for better word, it's not an echo chamber, but it is a region where 33 countries do speak the same language. So it's very interesting to see when you just cross a border, still the same language, maybe different accent, maybe different words, but still the same language. You go to Panama, you don't know. Somebody could be Mexican, somebody could be from Costa Rica. You go to Argentina, you don't know. Somebody could be from Chile, somebody could be from Uruguay. You really don't know about that. But if you're in Asia, you can tell who's from where. You kind of have an idea the minute they open their mouth, because of the language. So that is what piqued my interest a little bit. And also coming from a third world country, I understand the pain of having a weaker currency that doesn't really do well compared to the global scale of the first world countries and stuff. And I'm a huge person when it comes to trying to help out people. And I've always been in the space of being part of builders, even in Web2, being part of startups, helping out startups. How do we get startups involved? So when Mantle was looking about it, I was like, okay, none of you are going to understand Latin America like me at that point. We didn't have anyone who speaks any sort of Spanish. We have another team member now, Kelly, great girl, also speaks really good Spanish. I'm still on my learning curve on that side. So we decided, okay, I'll do it. I'll take it. There's going to be huge barriers and mountains for us to climb. But of course, with the help of Odyssey, that made it a lot more easier. And we decided, okay, this is a region for us to look at, because remittance just from Argentina alone, I think in 2023 or 2024 is 91 billion or 90 billion, something like that. And that's a size of 45 million people. That's a massive thing. And nobody really knows about it unless you go into like the chain analysis report, or you are really into the trenches of what's going on in Latin America. But people don't talk about it. If we talk about size of the whole region, I don't know what's the size, but it might be close to 500 million people. That's a huge amount. Brazil alone is about 220, if I'm not mistaken. Argentina is about 45. Mexico, I can't remember, maybe 60, 80 million people. That's alone is about 300 plus.
120 million.
120 million. So actually, I wonder what's the total size of total population of Latin America.
It should be around
600.
600, 500
Yeah, 600 million.
right.
Yeah, 664 million people in one region. That's crazy. It's a region, right? Of course, we can't fight with like the India and China, where they have just a huge country overall. But 664 million people, that is a massive amount of people. And if we're talking about even, let's say, 10% of that being able to hold even $10 on a certain chain, on any chain, that's a big size of uptick. So if you talk about 60 million people with $10, that's 600 million on chain like that overnight. If you talk about people getting onto Web3, and also there's a whole issue, right, of a lot of countries in this region, they just don't trust the government and they don't trust the bank. So what's the best way of them doing it? I've heard of the stories of people having money under the pillow in certain parts of Mexico and even in Argentina. A lot of people hold cash. A lot of people hold US dollar cash. They can't hold a bank account. But Web3 literally does tackle that issue, because now you have a way of holding US dollars, and you don't need to open a bank account. You just need to be able to on-ramp it via different services, whether legally or illegally. But OTC, that's Binance, you got Lemon Cash, you got Bitso, all these off and on-ramp providers, off-ramp, and it just makes so much sense. But people don't know about it. Also because it's literally very far, right? For some people, it doesn't help that media has portrayed, you go to LATAM, you're gonna die. It's so dangerous. There's guns everywhere. Of course, there is issues everywhere in the world. You just don't be an idiot and go to somewhere where it's dangerous. I'm not gonna go to some dodgy parts of Mexico, because why would I ever go there? It doesn't make sense. But
you also wouldn't go to a dodgy part of New York either, right? Like
exactly, right, exactly. You're not gonna go to the dodgy part of New York. You're not gonna go to the dodgy part of Korea. You're not gonna go to the dodgy part of Japan. You're not gonna go to the dodgy part of Germany, right? All these places, everywhere is dangerous in the world. But social media and TV and Hollywood doesn't do it justice and say like, people, when you hear about Colombia, people would know about Colombia. What's the first thing they think about? Narcos. It was on Netflix. And the one thing that really aches my mind is, when you watch TV and you watch Hollywood movies, the background of Mexico is always orange. It's always orange and it looks disgusting. I'm like, guys, it's not a desert here. It's a beautiful place. Honestly, I'm biased to a certain extent because I love it here. But I think Mexico City is the most beautiful city in the world where I've been.
Let's go.
Yeah, Mexico City is, I mean, coach, you gotta say like, Ben, come to Lake Atitlan with me, right? But it makes sense because that is why people would be like, "Oh, you're gonna go to Mexico? Are you crazy? You're gonna die." I went to my own embassy the other month, last month for dinner, and we sat down. There was about 25 of us having a chat, and they're like, "Man, nobody knows what's going on here." I'm like, "Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful city, a beautiful country, and not just Mexico City. We talk about every other country in the region. Uh, it's amazing, amazing, and beautiful beaches, great food, amazing people. I used to love Europe until I came to Latin America, and it just blew my mind how everyone's just warm and nice here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it just makes sense.
I think that regarding the thing that we were saying about you won't go to the dodgy place in basically any city of the world, I really like this book of a Nordic economist called Hans Rosling. The book is called Factfulness. It basically talks about how economic disparities in the world are basically similar. There are places in the world where the basic level of the pyramid doesn't exist, like in maybe Europe or something like that, where everybody has access to light, everybody has access to water, to their soil is not dirt, basically. But whenever you compare like middle classes across the world, they are really similar. Someone that lives in a middle class, like in an upper middle class in Mexico City, will live quite similarly to someone living in Madrid or in London.
Mm.
And for the past 2 years, I lived in Madrid, and I can say that I'm in Mexico City, and like the difference between the quality of life, it's not that hard. And I completely acknowledge my privilege, and not a lot of people can live like this in Mexico, but it's a reality. You can find it, and that's a really interesting take for Frontera and what we're building in crypto, because opportunities are greater in Latin America, but the quality of life for founders can be as good as anywhere else. And why is that so important? Because when you compare founders in the 1400s, well, maybe 1600s, 1700s, for them to come build to the new world, like I'm quoting that because who gets to decide what's the new world? But when they came to build to the new world, they need to do a lot of sacrifices. They were not, basically, they could die in the process. Right now, top founders can come to Latin America and build their companies and try to take them to the next level. We just had David from Etherfuse, that's an example of a product of international builders doing that. Also, Kush, there's the guys at Bondi that basically they're Turkish building in Argentina. So I think that's I'd love to hear what are the main opportunities that you see in the region, because it's a fertile ground for international founders to come solve those problems.
Yeah. So I think there is so many things that people don't understand about founders here. There's a difference with, of course, every business is a business, right? So you are trying to make money and you are trying to grow your business. Eventually, founders are so in love with their product, so they're just going to keep building it regardless. But from what we've seen here, it is not just, okay, I'm here to build a business that can grow. It's more, I have to build a business because I need to survive. Argentina, again, going back to Argentina and Venezuela, these are people who have been trying to build things because it's a survival skill. So Web3, crypto, whatever you want to call it, stable coins, it's all a survival skill. And even, for example, the Bondi boys, we met them in Argentina. They're Turkish, but they're in Argentina. They had the same issue. Their currency is going through shit right now. So they decided, hey, we should be trying to build something that gives a sustainable yield for the users who hold US dollars, who are a bit more, what's the word called, conservative, when it comes to not trying to be a degen and go and put into liquidity pools or go and have to manage my positions all the time. But bonds, maybe 4 to 10% a year, really safe-ish yield with my stable coins or US dollars, per se. So when it came to the founders here, it's a very massive thing for them to, I think the entrepreneurship or the entrepreneurial heart or drive is very big here. A lot of people here try to build businesses because you don't have government support. If your government is not great, currency is terrible. It's either hyperinflated or inflating. Mexico had the super pesos. Now it's not that great anymore. And different parts of the region, Brazil's also going through some stuff with the currency. So what do they have to do? They cannot just be depending on the government for support. They cannot be depending on their main job because every other month your salary could be different. And so what do? You try to come up with a side gig. You try to build something else. And of course, the developers and the founders and the builders here, they all crack. They vibe code all the time. They try to work for a different company from different countries that pay them US dollars. And then in the end, they decide, I mean, I can just build my own product anyway. And potentially I can be a founder. So, for example, we've got Guti from uh, Kush's team, Odyssey team. He's been to like 10 hackathons. He's won 10 hackathons in a row. Not building anything else other than being part of Odyssey, but they just love building, like constantly building stuff. And there is no safety net for them. Whereas if you go to other parts of the world, at least for Europe, there is some sort of safety net. I have a friend in France who he was going through some mental health issues and he took the year off and he still got about maybe 70-80% of pay from the government as support for him to live. Of course, with certain criteria, but that doesn't matter. But there is support. Whereas here, like, bro, if I'm Mexican and I've got mental health issues, I cannot go to my government and ask for, hey, can you give me a certain amount of money a year, maybe even 50% of what I made previously to support myself. I'm going to be homeless. So it's a survival skill here. So
Yeah.
naturally, it might not even be Web3, right? It could be somebody opening a tienda, selling tacos on the street, or going around selling tamales just because they need to survive.
Yeah, actually, that's one of the main reasons why lockdowns during COVID were not that harsh, specifically in Mexico, because maybe you can have a big lockdown in Madrid or Paris or London, but if you do lockdowns in Mexico, people die because they need to sell and they need to eat, right? And I was sharing this. I really love this quote, and I think that it really applies to Latin America. It's a Plato quote that is, "Necessity is the mother of invention." And Kush and I always talk about how necessity is a better driver for adoption than enthusiasm. If you need it, you'll use it. Maybe people don't need the second risk-taking token launching on the seventh L2. That's you can do liquidity provision on Uniswap. Yeah, we love it. This is really cool. But in Latin America, we need some basic stuff.
Yeah, I think it's back to the basics of on ramps, using your cards to pay, holding US dollars, and then using your card to just go to OXXO or Mercado Libre, whatever, just to be able to pay for your stuff with whatever stable coins that you have.
Ben, I want to given that we're talking about necessity in Latin America and we spoke a little bit about Mantle, let's switch it up and let's start exploring a little bit more about bringing these two ideas together. Where does Mantle and Latin America meet, right? And what's the opportunity you saw there? Why is Mantle really well suited for Latin America? And then how have you looked towards capitalizing on that opportunity? And what does that relationship look like, given that there is so much to be done in the region?
Yeah. So I think mainly any kind of Web3 infra would make sense in Latin America. But when we started thinking about it internally, okay, we saw some other L2s or some other infra focusing on certain countries. And we had a chat internally with me and Via, and we said, let's think big. Let's go be part of every country. And also being able to work with you, right, Kush? So being very personal. I think when it comes to coming into a region, you have to be very personal because, for example, if let's say they ask me to do this in another region, I don't think I'll be as passionate about it because I'm very passionate about this part of the world and I have so much love for this part of the world. So being able to mix business with pleasure, everybody in Latin America does that. So I have to be like that. It's a lot of business and pleasure. Whereas in other parts of the world, business is business, pleasure is pleasure. Everyone compartmentalizes. But here, everything is business and pleasure. In order for you to work together, you got to sit down with them. You got to go for the 10 times of coffee before you close the deal. You've got to go and hike with them before you close the deal. It's a lot of really getting to know you. It's a very trust-oriented here in this region. And people work with each other. So if you screw it up, you're out. Like you're no longer part of the circle. You're no longer part of the cable. So when it came to Mantle, looking into that, okay, we said we have to be very personal. Hence why we decided in December we did a tour across Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico City, and we hosted 4 events. We traveled 10 days in 4 countries in 10 days. The craziest travel of my life that I've ever done. Literally from the bottom of, I flew in from Mexico. So I flew from Mexico to Argentina, made my way back up to Mexico in less than 10 days. and it's hectic. But I
That
loved it.
looks
It
so
was so
fun.
fun.
It looks
It's
so
fun, but
fun, man.
super tiring. It's fun when
Yeah.
you get to sleep at least like 7 hours a day, but we were sleeping, I think, 4 to 5 hours because we were out until like 1 in the morning every day. Some people eat super late, they eat at like 11. And then next morning we were up at 8 because we got a coffee meeting. So we're just like constantly on the go, but it's fun. But we wanted to be personal, especially the idea of, okay, I'm literally flying from other parts of the world to make this happen and not just deciding, okay, let's just take a person to represent Mantle from this country. They go there, run it, and then it's different when you see someone who is very personal, and even not just ourselves, even for other networks, other projects who do this kind of thing, who's done the tour. I think you have to be very personal, especially with countries who are people are very warm. They need you to be personal. Like if we do this in the US, let's say we do a tour in the US. Okay, we go to New York, LA, Boston, Chicago. Nobody's gonna give two shits. It doesn't really work. But whereas if let's say you come here and you just be very personal, you try to speak Spanish, you try to really just sit down with them and talk to them and say, "Hi, what do you need? Tell us what you need. What kind of resources do you need, and how can we help you?" And it became a time where we just decided to sit down with a lot of people and say, "Okay, how do we help you achieve success?" And for us, our success would be branding awareness, people coming onto the chain, people building on the chain. So in order for us to succeed, we need you to succeed. So how do we help you succeed so that we succeed?
I think that mindset is really, it resonates a lot with me. It's my win and help win mentality. And also, I think that people in LATAM are a lot more maybe wary of people because it's like who's this guy? I mean, what's he doing here in Mexico City? And I think it's a normal thing because culturally we as Latins we always say that we have like four eyes, maybe two in the front and two in the back, because every time that you're walking in the street, you need to pay attention, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're in a good part of the city, it's a little less. You need to pay a little bit less of attention, but you cannot go like just hanging around and not looking at what's happening around you, right? Ben, I'd like to start closing the episode. Thank you for coming to Frontera. And I'd love to know what's coming next. What are the next things that you are doing as Mantle in LATAM? What are the plans for the rest of 2025?
Yeah. Big plans. Certain things still in NBA. I can see Kush smiling over there. Haven't, but ideally this is what we're still doing. So of course we're pushing. End of the month, I just got a message as we're calling, as we're recording this podcast, that we're going to go to Puebla. So we are running something small in Puebla. I think there's about 30, 40 people that's gonna attend. And then we've got Cinco de Mayo, there's a hackathon. We are planning to I'm planning to stay here for a bit. So if there's any kind of events or projects that would like to have a chat, eventually I would love to do another tour leading up to Dev Connect and end in Dev Connect. So just more activations, more things we're building. We have another program running right now called Nucleo, doing with Odyssey actually. So there's about 52 developers across the whole region, just to get them into Web3. Some of them are building some really weird, crazy stuff. I've seen it. And I'm just like, okay, it's not just Web3 stuff. It's deep in and 2.5 Web3. Well, I don't even know what to call it. There's so many different things. And my personal thing with what I'm thinking of is growth doesn't just happen in a year. So people need to continue. There's a lot of hype, right, in LATAM leading up to Dev Connect. But the hype has to sustain post Dev Connect. Because if you stop whatever you're doing after this year, you might be going towards the peak and then you literally just dip everything on your own because, okay, Dev Connect is no longer LATAM. Let's not focus on it anymore. But it's more, okay, post Dev Connect, how do we make it sustainable? How do we still make sure that the world sees that LATAM is the place to be? LATAM has a lot of money. LATAM has a lot of businesses, a lot of founders, a lot of bright talents. So even internally, what I'm telling the team is, okay, we don't just focus in on 25 guys. We focus on it literally every year. So every region we have somebody who focus on it. So I focus on LATAM. We have somebody who focus on different parts of Asia. Somebody who focus on like Russia and CIS or whatever, and global. So we don't just stop there at that after Dev Connect. There has to be something sustainable. if you're talking about nurturing a founder, founders might achieve success in 6 months. They might achieve success in 2 years. They might achieve success in 5 years. So it's just constantly being there, especially if you want to plant yourself in a certain region, you're completely from scratch. You cannot expect to achieve some kind of success or like major success in however long, and then you die off because you no longer have money, you no longer have a budget, no longer have incentives. So it's got to be sustainable growth over time, and not just 0 to 1,000 and then we go to 100. Like, I don't think that works. So whoever that's listening to this, I pray and I hope even after Dev Connect, if it's great that you're all building towards Dev Connect, but even after Dev Connect, continue keeping your eyes on this region, because don't just come in, okay, we're gonna pump in everything until Dev Connect and then you leave and everybody's stuck. Right? That's not what's needed in this region.
I think that's one of the things that I've always really appreciated about Mantle, is a few different things. Like, one is the thoughtfulness in which you have thought about your engagement in Latin America, because it is, and I love Ab's like win and help win philosophy, and I was literally about to mention it up because it always comes to mind. These positive sum games, 1 + 1 = 3. That basic premise that is lift others up, right? And help lift others up, because the more people around you are lifted, the more you will rise, right? And so I think that that has been one thing I really appreciated. Two is also the extent to which the Mantle like ecosystem is also really, really helpful, really kind and considerate. I mean, we did this like crazy freaking tour, 10 days, 4 countries. It was insane, but we had so much fun along the way, right? And it was like you from Malaysia, someone from Finland, and then we had someone else from New Zealand. Yeah. Right. And just like the incredible diversity of people like that, I think Mantle brings to the table was also really beautiful and inspiring. So Ben, just to wrap things up, man, like where can people find you? Where can they connect with you and reach out if they're working on really exciting things that they might think Mantle would be a good fit for?
Yes. So first thing, follow 0x Mantle LATAM, follow @Mantle_official. You can reach out to me on Twitter. I believe when you guys post this, there will be a handle tagged. Just DM me. My DMs are always open and would love to have a chat. If you are in Mexico City, I'm always down for a coffee or even tacos or whatever, so that we can talk and see how Mantle can support you. We're not superheroes. We can't support everyone in the world, but we try our very best. And we would, even if it's not supporting you now, it could be supporting you in 2 months, 3 months when you have a product. Or try to find out what we want, and then maybe you can go and build a product as well.
Dude, thank you for coming. And we always like closing the episodes with this, our signature question. Could you tell us an insight that living in LATAM you find that is super interesting, and maybe people around the world would be shocked to know this?
Well, I guess would be everyone just knows how they're fun. So a few things. I'll finish it very quick. Give me 2 minutes. But everyone just loves to have fun here. Of course, business is business, but everybody loves to have fun. There is literally something to do every day, whether it's going to your friend's house, whether it's just randomly going up to a street restaurant or street food and eating. But the one thing that still blows my mind to today is how late everybody eats, because that's crazy. Anything after like 7:38, like Argentinian people eat at like 11. I'm like, guys, 11 is bedtime. Mexicans so far when I go out with some Mexicans, they eat like 9:30, 10. I think that's just crazy. A lot of people, I can't. I still eat like 7:38 every day. Except maybe when I'm with locals, then I've got to like suffer and take it in. And then everybody still wakes up really early to go to work and make it productive. So the business pleasure part, somehow the balance works. And yes, so those are some of the insights. And people are just fun, lovely, warm, very authentic, super, super authentic. But the culture of the ahorita, that pisses me off. Like, that doesn't sit well with me. Like, supposed to meet you at 7:30, you come at 9. I'm like, bro. Like, no.
Yeah. Ahorita is, I really love ahorita in the sense that it's an infinite tense. It could mean like right now or like never. You never know. So, man, thank you for coming. You can follow Kush at 0x Kush. You can follow me at Abraham CR. You can follow Frontera at Frontera EC. Thank you for coming. We're gonna keep producing this content. And I think that I'll see you in a couple of days, man. And to anyone that is
sure.
listening, thank you for coming to listen to this episode. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Ciao.
Bye.